Nikola Tesla. Is he a crazy man or a man with a vision? The inventions that if you were to register and produce, maybe we would have a different world. Join me as I tell you a very terrible project of his. This is a true story and may be heartbreaking. Please be aware of continuing to listen to this story if you have tender feelings. The Philadelphia Experiment, or Rainbow Project, was one of America's secret experiments in 1943 to create a time and space tunnel. The experiment ended horribly, and although its effects can still be seen in places around the port of Philadelphia, the U.S. Navy, which was responsible for the project, continues to deny it. The experiment that took place in Philadelphia was later mysteriously linked to a similar project called the Montauk Project in 1983, and it even involved humans from the past and future eras, and even aliens. Before the war and during World War II, the U.S. Navy conducted experiments to make ships and planes invisible. This invisibility was such that the radars are no longer able to track these devices, and for this purpose, the entire mass of the device in question must enter another dimension of time-space so that its mass cannot be tracked and bombed. Under the supervision of the greatest physicists of the century, including Nikola Tesla and John von Neumann. This project started working in an area of more than 50 hectares next to the port of Philadelphia. Nikola Tesla in the middle of the waves of electricity. His life full of mystery and his fake death by the American government is very suspicious, while it was announced that he died in 1957. His body was not shown to anyone, and eyewitnesses saw him alive in 2001. They have seen while he continues to perform unforgivable experiments and sacrifice human beings. John von Neumann, Tesla colleague who was responsible for the Philadelphia and Montauk bridges. More than 400 Jewish German scientists worked on this project, including Einstein. In early experiments, with the help of very strange devices that Tesla built, the research team was able to make small objects such as tables and chairs disappear, enter an unknown dimension and then bring them back. These tests were started before the start of the Second World War, and it is quite clear that the Second World War was foreseen and planned in advance. In the meantime, a large number of German and American Jews paid the expenses of this huge project. After the initial tests, which were conducted under the command of the U.S. Navy, it was decided to put a number of animals, including sheep and goats, inside a ship and send it to another dimension. These animals were in metal cages on the ship's deck. The ship completely disappeared for a few minutes, but when it returned, some of the animals were missing and the rest had burn marks on their bodies. It was decided that no humans would be tested until the project was completed, but on August 12, 1943, the USS Eldridge was tested with its entire crew. The sailors had no idea what was going to happen. The devices started working and the keys were pressed. The ship disappeared with all the men inside. Until 4 hours later when they reappeared in the port of Philadelphia. Witnesses report that a phosphorescent green aura surrounded the entire ship. The crew of the ship was burning on fire. Some of them had gone crazy. Some of them had heart attacks. Some of them had melted in the hull and walls of the ship and were dying alive. The rest of the crew were dead. Navy reports indicate that the few sailors who survived disappeared in front of the audience within weeks. The question was, where did the ship go during these 4 hours? 2 survivors who were on this ship claimed that during these 4 hours, the ship entered a 40-year-old time tunnel. That is, from 1943 to 1983, and exactly at the time of a similar experiment called Project Montauk. Why and how? They believe that aliens have played an active role in this. Although reports confirm the presence of several future human spaceships at the time of this experiment. The fact is that 40 years after the Philadelphia experiment, the same scientists whose names were mentioned started another similar experiment in a place near Philadelphia. The name of this project in the Navy files is Project Montauk. The ship that disappeared in 1943 had jumped in the time tunnel to 1983 during the Montauk project. In the meantime, two crew members named Duncan and Bill jumped out of the ship and remained in 1983, while the ship itself and the other crew returned to 1943 and they all died. These two survivors were not members of the Navy crew, but two researchers and physicists and friends of John von Neumann and Nikola Tesla, who, for whatever reason, were present on the deck of the Eldridge ship that day and traveled 40 years in the future at the right time. They did according to their own reports. John von Neumann had prepared two lifeboats in advance to take them out of the water. Albeck says, when we were taken from the water and taken to von Neumann, he was old and told us that he has been waiting for your arrival for 40 years. It is clear that this 40-year time travel has been successfully completed as these scientists predicted. According to Duncan and Bill, there was a third person with them, but due to a mistake that happened in his time clock, after entering 1983, he aged by a year every hour and within a few days, he died atrociously. Duncan and Bill are now living in New York and have done some private interviews without mentioning their names. According to him, this is not the first time that time travel has taken place. Duncan has proven by giving many specifications and documents that only 3 devices are needed to travel in time and that it is possible to travel to any time after the opening of the tunnel. There is no need for special clothes or any fancy facilities. These devices and antennas are stretched both on the ground and miles underground in Montauk. Bill revealed that in 1943 they were sent to Mars to inspect the abandoned cities and underground tunnels of Mars. According to him, Mars has been deserted and uninhabited for thousands of years, but its air is breathable and livable. According to Duncan, a team of 20 people was sent with him to the future in the year 6535 AD. There was no inhabitant seen there. They visited a huge square with a giant statue of a golden horse in the middle of it. According to these statements, this test was repeated many times and each time they entered the same place as if there was no other place in the year 6535. They also report that during their experiments several spaceships appeared over Montauk, not intending to interfere, just observing. Unfortunately, when the tunnel was created, it pulled one of these UFOs into itself and moved it to 1943. In this situation, the people who were in 1943 found the UFO. According to Duncan, some UFOs who were in 1983 came from the future to monitor things. There is also super secret information about Orion and Greys and their role in giving Earthlings this technology for time travel that cannot be mentioned here. When the tunnel is active in the port of Montauk, it has caused unexpected and strange events that even ordinary people have seen. Among them is the discovery of the body of a monster or a legendary creature on the beaches of Montauk. Due to the flow of time travel and many experiments that take place in this port, it is quite natural that a tunnel was opened in prehistoric times or in ancient times and this monster has been thrown from that time to this time. Although this is not the first time that a strange creature has been found in Montauk. According to reports, the bodies of similar creatures, sometimes smaller than this, are washed up on the beaches of Montauk. And it can be assumed that only 1 in 1,000 bodies is pulled from the ocean to the shore. According to the information that Duncan and Bill give, several times when they were working in the underground channels of Montauk, monsters got out of control and came out of the tunnel, which led to the death of a large number of scientists.